Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. The moment you stop texting first, the moment you stop begging for his time, the moment you stop showing up for someone who won't even show up for you, everything changes. You think a man will forget you when you detach? Oh no, that's when you haunt him. Why? Because men don't chase what's always there. They chase what they're scared to lose, ladies. I need you to hear me. Your silence is louder than your words. Your distance is louder than your love. And your detachment, that's your power. So if you're tired of being the one who always cares more, who always gives more, stick with me. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why the moment you pull back is the moment he starts leaning in. A lot of people hear the word detachment and get it twisted. They think it means being cold, emotionless, mean. But let me set the record straight. Detachment is not about being rude or playing hard to get. Detachment is power. It's knowing your worth, even when someone else doesn't see it right away. It's choosing to walk away from confusion, mixed signals, and half efforts, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more. See, a woman who knows how to detach doesn't move with desperation. She's not chasing. She's not blowing up his phone. She's not begging for attention or trying to prove why she deserves love. She already knows she deserves it. And that energy, that quiet confidence, it shakes a man to his core. When you're emotionally attached to someone who's not giving you the same energy, it drains you. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much love, time, or effort you pour in, it never feels full. That's when you start feeling insecure, anxious, lost. And guess what? That's exactly when they start pulling away because they can feel that neediness. People always feel it when you need them more than they need you. But when you detach, when you say, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not begging for the bare minimum. I'm not losing sleep over someone who sleeps just fine without me. You take your power back. You're not punishing him. You're not playing games. You're just making a decision. My peace is more important than your inconsistency. Men notice that. They feel that shift. And whether they admit it or not, it wakes them up. Because suddenly, the person they used to ignore is now unavailable. And let me tell you, nothing gets a man's attention faster than the woman who stopped waiting. Detachment doesn't mean you don't love him. It means you love yourself enough not to stay stuck in a place where you're not valued. And that kind of woman, she stands out because she's not moving out of fear. She's not scared to be alone. She's not afraid of what happens if he walks away because she knows she'll be just fine either way. That kind of energy can't be faked. You can't pretend to be detached if deep down you're obsessing over him. Real detachment is peaceful. It's silent. It's when you're no longer angry, no longer crying, no longer checking your phone every 5 minutes hoping for a reply. It's when you start focusing on you, your life, your goals, your growth, and he's no longer the center of your universe. And here's the crazy part, that's exactly when he starts paying attention. That's when the, hey stranger, texts show up. That's when the random phone calls start. Because now you're not accessible. You're not available on demand. You're not the same woman who used to rearrange her entire day just to hear his voice. You changed the pattern. And he feels it. But here's the thing, detachment isn't for revenge. It's not a trick to get him back. It's a gift you give to yourself. Because once you detach, you see things clearly. You start to realize who's really showing up for you and who is just taking up space. You realize that love is not supposed to be confusing. It's not supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to feel like you're constantly trying to prove that you're enough. The moment you detach, you stop trying to force things, and instead, you start attracting what aligns with your worth. So no, detachment isn't cold. It's not cruel. It's clarity. And once you have that clarity, you move different. You stop explaining yourself. You stop arguing for someone to see your value. You stop chasing and you start choosing you every single time. And let me tell you, when a man sees a woman who chooses herself, who walks away with her head high, her standards in place, and her heart intact, he doesn't forget her. He may not say it, but deep down he knows that woman was the one. And he let her go because he thought she'd always stay. But she didn't. Because she knew the truth: detachment isn't the end. It's the beginning of something better. Here's a truth most women learn the hard way: that men don't really value what they think they can't lose. As long as they feel like you'll always be there, always picking up their calls, always forgiving them, always showing up no matter how little they give, they stop trying. They stop appreciating. They start taking you for granted. But the moment they feel like you're slipping away, that's when the panic sets in. Men chase what feels like it could be gone tomorrow. They may not say it out loud, but inside they feel the shift. They feel it when your energy pulls back, when your tone changes, when you don't respond right away like you used to, when you stop initiating the conversations, when your world no longer revolves around theirs. That's when they look around and realize, wait, she's not holding on like before. And that moment, that's powerful, because it creates what men rarely feel in relationships when they're being careless: fear of losing something good. And make no mistake, fear changes behavior. It makes him rethink how he's treating you. It makes him notice all the little ways he's been slacking. It makes him remember what life was like when you were all in, and suddenly realize that maybe, just maybe, you won't be there forever. You see, as long as a man believes he has you locked down, he doesn't see urgency. There's no pressure to be better, show up more, or treat you right, because in his mind, you're not going anywhere. But the second he starts to doubt that, that's when he starts to move differently. That's when he starts calling more often, paying closer attention, asking where you've been and who you're with. And that's not about control. That's about realization. A realization that he may have fumbled a woman who was genuinely good to him. And that scares him more than anything. But here's the thing: this only works when the detachment is real, when you've truly let go of the need to make it work, when you're no longer operating out of fear of losing him, but instead standing firm in your belief that if he doesn't value you, he doesn't deserve you. Because a man will always test your limits, not because he's evil, but because he's human. He wants to see how far he can go, how much you'll tolerate, how deep your loyalty really runs. And if every time he disrespects your time, your love, or your presence, you just stay, you just forgive, he learns that your loyalty is unconditional, even when he's not earning it. But when you show him that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee, everything changes. When he starts to feel like maybe, just maybe, someone else might get to experience the love he took for granted, that lights a fire under him. That's why men chase what they think they might lose. Not because they're suddenly perfect or ready, but because they're finally realizing what they've had all along. Detachment shows him something words never could: that you're not afraid to leave, that you're not stuck, that you're not someone who will settle for less just to have someone around. It's not about playing games. It's about making it clear that if he can't treat you right, someone else will. If he won't choose you, you'll choose yourself. And once you choose yourself, You stop begging to be chosen by anyone else. That's when men start showing up different. That's when they start making plans instead of excuses. That's when they start remembering the little things. That's when they start asking, how can I fix this? Instead of saying, you're overreacting. And the best part, you didn't have to scream, cry, or chase to get there. All you did was pull back, focus on yourself, redirect your energy from trying to change him to loving you. And that shift, that detachment, spoke louder than any argument ever could. So yes, men chase what they think they might lose. Not because they didn't care before, but because they didn't realize how valuable it was. Until it wasn't guaranteed anymore. And that's your power. One of the biggest mistakes women make in relationships is confusing attention with affection. Just because a man is texting you, calling you, checking up on you, liking your posts, or even spending time with you, doesn't mean he loves you. It doesn't even mean he truly values you. Attention is cheap. It costs him nothing to send a text at midnight. It costs him nothing to give you crumbs of his time when it's convenient for him. But affection, real affection, shows up with consistency, effort, and intention. It makes you feel seen, not just contacted. The problem is, when you're emotionally invested, you start to crave any sign that he's still interested. So when he gives you a little bit of attention, you cling to it. You tell yourself, well, at least he reached out, or he must care, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't keep coming back. But coming back doesn't mean staying. Popping in and out of your life isn't love, it's convenience. You're becoming his backup plan, his comfort zone, his ego boost, and you're mistaking it for affection. That's where detachment changes everything. Because once you detach, you stop needing his attention to feel good about yourself. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes hoping to see his name. You stop giving him credit for bare minimum efforts. You start looking at what he does, not just what he says. You stop making excuses for his inconsistency and you start asking better questions. Is this making me feel secure? Do I feel respected? Is he showing up for me the way I show up for him? See, when you're attached and emotionally hungry, even the smallest bit of attention feels like a meal. But when you detach, you realize you've been starving for affection and you've been filling up on scraps. That kind of clarity is powerful because it helps you raise your standards without saying a word. It helps you stop settling for someone who only remembers you when he's bored, lonely, or in between better options. Men can feel when you detach. They notice when you're no longer impressed by their weak efforts. They notice when your tone changes, when your energy shifts, when your eyes stop lighting up just because they finally remembered to call. And at first, they might test you. They'll send a flirty text. They'll ask what you're doing. They'll try to reel you back in with attention because that's what used to work. But this time, you don't bite. Because now you know the difference between attention and affection. You've seen the pattern too many times. You're not just happy to be remembered. You're focused on being cherished. That's what detachment teaches you. It teaches you not to get excited over breadcrumbs. It teaches you that the right person won't keep you guessing. The right person won't give you just enough to keep you holding on while never offering something real. The right person will show up fully, intentionally, and consistently. And that kind of clarity is what makes men wake up. Because when you stop reacting to attention, you stop being predictable. You stop feeding his ego. You stop being the one he can always fall back on. You become the woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't wait around for someone who can't give her what she deserves. And that woman, she's unforgettable When a man realizes he no longer has access to you just because he wants to, it forces him to ask himself, did I ever actually love her? Or did I just love how she made me feel about me? That's the moment he either steps up or you step away for good. So don't fall for the attention trap. Don't let a few sweet words, a call here and there, or a like on your photo make you forget how lonely you felt while waiting for him to care. Love is not random. It's not inconsistent. It doesn't come in waves depending on someone's mood or schedule. When someone truly loves you, it shows in how they treat you every day, not just when it's convenient. Detachment isn't about shutting down your heart. It's about protecting it from people who only want to rent space in it, not build a home. And once you stop feeding on attention, you make space for affection, real, deep, lasting love, the kind you don't have to beg for. When a woman starts focusing on herself, everything changes, not just in her own life, but in how people around her, especially men, start reacting to her. You see, when you finally take all the energy you were pouring into chasing someone, fixing someone, waiting on someone, and you redirect that energy into your goals, your growth, your peace, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because you're finally moving in alignment with your own power. Men can sense the shift. They may not be able to put it into words, but they feel it. The woman who used to constantly check in, who used to worry about what he was thinking, who used to make herself small just to fit in his life, she's gone. Now there's a woman in her place who has peace in her eyes, confidence in her walk, and purpose in her step. And that's attractive. That's rare. That's irresistible. The truth is, most people are drawn to energy. When your energy was wrapped up in anxiety, insecurity, and trying to prove your worth, you gave off the vibe that something was missing in your life, and you needed him to fill it. But when you detach and start focusing on yourself, that neediness disappears. You don't chase. You don't cling. You don't overthink. You just live. And in that living, in that freedom, you start to glow differently. You start showing up for yourself. You eat better. You sleep better. You pursue your passions. You put effort into your work, your friendships, your health, your hobbies. And suddenly, you're not waiting around for a text. You're too busy becoming the best version of yourself. And that is when men start looking at you with new eyes. It's funny how it works. The moment you stop needing someone to validate you, they start trying harder to win your attention. Why? Because now your energy feels expensive. It's not available on demand anymore. You're not trying to prove anything. You know what you bring to the table, and if someone doesn't see it, you're not offended, you just walk away. That kind of confidence is rare. And people chase what they can't easily have. And here's the most important part. This isn't about getting him back or making him jealous. This is about you finally remembering who you are. It's about realizing that your life is too valuable to put on pause for someone who isn't sure about you. When you pour into yourself, you stop seeking someone else to complete you. You're not a half looking for a whole. You become complete on your own. And ironically, that's when love finds you. Real love. The kind that's drawn to your strength, not your struggle. The kind that values your peace, not just your presence. The kind that doesn't feel like a roller coaster, but a steady hand. But none of that happens until you make the decision, I'm done waiting. I'm done wondering. I'm done hoping that someone else will show up and finally give me what I've been giving everyone else. It's my time now. My time to rise. My time to heal. My time to glow. When you choose yourself consistently, unapologetically, with love, the right people will be drawn to you, and the wrong ones, they'll fall away. because they can't survive in the presence of someone who no longer needs their games, their silence, or their crumbs. So if you want to know why men can't resist women who detach, it's simple. Because detachment leads to transformation. And a woman who's transforming, who's glowing, who's finally centered in her own worth, she becomes a force. She's not the same woman who cried over mixed signals. She's not the same woman who begged for clarity. She's evolved. And once a woman evolves, the game changes, not because she played harder, but because she stopped playing altogether and started living. There's something powerful about a woman who stops explaining herself, who stops begging to be understood, who stops trying to prove she's worthy of love, time, and effort. That kind of woman becomes untouchable, not because she's cold, not because she's bitter, but because she's done performing for people who don't appreciate the show. You see, most women are taught from early on to be accommodating, to explain themselves, to be nice even when they're hurt, to soften their voice even when they've been disrespected. But that behavior teaches the world, and especially men, that you'll always try to earn what you already deserve. And the moment you start doing that, the balance of power shifts. Suddenly, he's not meeting your standards. You're shrinking yourself to meet his. And that's the trap. But the moment you detach, the moment you step back from chasing clarity or validation, everything changes. You no longer feel the need to say, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from. Because now you understand yourself. You no longer feel the need to constantly explain what you bring to the table, because you know what you bring, and if someone doesn't see it, that's not your loss anymore, that's theirs. Men can sense when a woman stops trying to be chosen, when she stops asking, what did I do wrong? And starts saying, if you can't see me, that's on you. That energy is fierce. It's not aggressive. It's solid. It's rooted in peace, and peace is louder than words. Because nothing speaks louder than silence from a woman who used to fight for your attention. When you stop over-explaining, when you stop reacting to every inconsistency or disrespect, you stop feeding the dynamic that kept you stuck. Now, instead of defending yourself, you just exit. Instead of asking, why are you acting different? You just pull back, you observe, you let people reveal themselves, and when they do, you believe them. You don't argue with their actions anymore. You just respond with distance. And that shakes a man to his core, because he's used to being questioned. He's used to getting texts like, did I do something wrong? Or, why are you acting like this? But when you go quiet, when you go calm, when you go unavailable without explanation, that's when he realizes he's no longer in control. That's when it hits him. You're not waiting anymore, you're done. And it's in that moment that the tables turn, because men respect what they can't manipulate. When you no longer allow your emotions to be played with, when you no longer entertain half-effort love, when you stop explaining your worth, that's when a man starts realizing he has to rise up or step aside. And if he's not ready to rise, you're already gone. The woman who detaches becomes the woman who lives in her own lane. She doesn't chase energy anymore, she matches it. If you're inconsistent, she's unavailable. If you're silent, she's gone. If you bring confusion, she brings closure for herself. She doesn't wait around for an apology that may never come. She gives herself the peace she was hoping to get from someone else. And that's why detachment is so powerful, because it's not just about walking away, it's about walking away with dignity. It's about knowing that silence, boundaries, and distance are sometimes louder than any speech you could give. You don't need to explain to someone why they lost you. They'll figure it out when they see you thriving without them. So stop trying to be understood. Stop begging for someone to see your heart. Stop thinking that if you just say it the right way, he'll finally get it. If he cared, he would have already listened. If he valued you, then he would have already shown it. You don't need to scream to be heard. You just need to leave. And when you do it without drama, without tears, without chasing, that's when they feel it the most. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to explain it. She embodies it. When a woman truly detaches, it's not about playing games. It's not about pretending she doesn't care or acting cold. It's about finally stepping into her power, the quiet, unshakable kind that comes from knowing she no longer needs to be chosen, saved, or validated by someone else. She becomes the chooser, and that shift changes everything. You see, for a long time, a woman might stay in a space where she's constantly seeking something from a man, his time, his attention, his approval, his love. She waits for him to show up. She waits for him to see her value. She hopes that one day, if she's patient enough, loving enough, forgiving enough, he'll finally become the man she needs him to be. But when a woman detaches, she lets go of that waiting room. She realizes that time spent hoping for someone to change is time stolen from her, becoming the version of herself that doesn't settle, the version of herself that doesn't beg, the version of herself that doesn't get stuck in confusion. She stops asking, "Why isn't he showing up for me?" and starts asking, "Why am I still showing up for someone who won't meet me halfway?" That's when the transformation begins. Not because she became someone else, but because she remembered who she was before she started making herself smaller for love. Before she started lowering her standards just to keep someone around. When she detaches, she gets her clarity back. And with clarity comes peace. And with peace comes power. Men can feel this shift in energy. A woman who is no longer emotionally dependent on their attention moves differently. She's not waiting for a text back. She's moving through her day with purpose. She's not trying to decode his mixed signals. She's setting boundaries with silence. She's not trying to fix him. She's focused on healing herself. And that's self-focus. That's self-respect. That's what makes her unforgettable. Because here's the thing most people expect you to break when they stop showing up for you. But when you glow instead, when you grow instead, that's what leaves a lasting impression. That's what keeps them up at night, realizing they lost access to something solid. Not because you slammed the door, but because you outgrew the room. And the irony is, when a woman stops needing a man to choose her, that's when many of them finally want to. But by that point, it's too late, because she's not who she used to be. She doesn't need his validation anymore. She doesn't need his energy to feel full. She's learned to love herself on a deeper level, not the surface level self-care stuff, but real rooted self-love. The kind that says, if I have to let you go to get back to me, I will. That kind of detachment is rare. It's not bitter. It's not dramatic. It's grounded. It says, I wish you well, but I choose me. And it doesn't require a big announcement. It shows up in how she no longer responds the same way, in how she no longer chases closure, in how she lets people fall out of her life without needing to force them to stay. That's what makes her powerful. She's not running away from love. She's just no longer willing to suffer in the name of it. She's not afraid of being alone. She's afraid of losing herself, trying to hold on to someone who's not holding her back. And that's the kind of woman men can't forget. Not because she was perfect, not because she was always there, but because when she walked away, she did it with grace, with strength, with self-respect. She didn't try to prove a point. She became the point. So when a woman detaches, it's not the end of her story. It's the beginning. The beginning of her becoming the version of herself that knows she is the prize, that knows peace is more valuable than promises, that knows love is not meant to hurt, confuse, or break her down, but to build, to nourish, to uplift. And once she understands that, she will never again settle for less. She will never again beg for the bare minimum. She will only move forward with clarity in her mind, peace in her heart, and her crown firmly on her head. Because now she's not waiting to be chosen. She's already chosen herself.